And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where two big things are going on this week for us. Yes, there is a schedule out there, and also there are going to be games on campus. Wow, can you believe it? We've been through it. These last 6 months have been trying for sure, but athletics have returned. So, got a full house in today to discuss all that as Jared was able to get everything rolled in time and made sure that the ATMs were swept out and cases. Case has been bickering with his in-laws on what type of feed they're going to use to watch football this afternoon. I hope he won the argument case. And Jeff has paid no attention to sports whatsoever this week. He's been working, so we'll be teaching
Hardly
him
paid attention to
as long as
anything.
we go along. And there you have it. We have our third man who has paid attention to nothing all week. At least he got us online though, and there we
Yeah.
go. So
Well, I think.
that's it.
Let's not make assumptions.
Yeah. And if you can hear us out there, type in "go" like Jeff did to me, so I knew we were on. But we have a lot of fun with it as we usually do at this point in time. I'll give it just a brief introduction here to Mr. Case Hoskins, who will, shall I say it, can it be jinxed, is actually going to go over scheduling and Twitter information with us and both aspects of it. My
I
gracious.
know. There's
Go,
stuff
Case, go.
on there. Not as much stuff as you would think. Still, strangely, the football schedule is not appearing on the composite calendar. No idea why that is. But there is a football game tonight at 8 p.m. on ACC Network. Louisville taking on the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. We'll see. Should be an interesting game. I think the line is about Louisville 10 in various places. It's been a trendy.
11 and a half I saw yesterday, but that may have changed.
It's been a
went up
trendy
to 12 this morning.
trendy upset pick for a lot of people.
It could be
Think
3 or
that,
19. You never know.
Think that Louisville doesn't really might not have it against the Hilltoppers tonight, so we'll see how that goes. But into the other sports that we do cover here, women's soccer will be first on the calendar for the Louisville Women's Athletics Fall Sports. They're taking on Miami on Thursday. The time is TBA. We had heard some rumors that the games may be at very interesting times for ACC Network scheduling purposes. So we'll keep an eye out for that one for a game time to be announced for everyone to find out. Keep an eye on Cardinal Couple, and we'll let you know that then. Next Saturday, cross country heads up to South Bend for one of their 3 meets for the Irish Classic, hosted by Notre Dame. And then there will be a football game that week as well. But it's not on the calendar. And I haven't pulled their schedule up, so I don't know it off the top of my head. We're just taking this one day at a time. I don't think it's probably not wise to get more than 1 week ahead, based on some news that's been coming out that I'm sure we'll talk about as we go forward. But moving on to the Twitter accounts, I tweet us at best case scenario. Haven't tweeted about many of the home troubles we've been having, but having Plummer out twice in the last week and a half has been a fun time. Jeff tweets us at Jeff McAdams and at Card Couple Radio. We've got some stuff on the calendar, so Card Couple Radio should be making its comeback soon for those volleyball matches in a couple of weeks.
I got to make sure I have it set up on my new phone.
Got to get signed in.
That's right.
Cover password. Jared tweets us at Mr. Anderson Jared. He's been tweeting a backlog of photo shoots that he's done recently. And Paulie tweets us at Cardinal Couple. That's it. I had scheduling to talk about. We didn't finish scheduling in Twitter at 11:02. I made it to 11:05 today.
I remember the old days when you used to go like to 11:17 and stuff. But
when there's stuff to talk about, we can go that long. But,
as we're slowly getting back into that, but never fear, we do have a lot of things to talk about today, and I think maybe one of the first things that we'll get into would be the actual scheduling that Case mentioned earlier. 3 sports that we have obviously attended in the past, done coverage on, done post-game interviews, or been there as fans are women's soccer, field hockey, and volleyball. And so, since the women's soccer is the first one that's going to be kind of kicking this off, why don't we just start off there? As Case mentioned, they start on the road, and this will be next Thursday. Time to be determined. As Case had mentioned, as they'll play Miami on Thursday, and then hit a little bit further north and go to Florida State on September the 20th. Wow, this is not an easy schedule to start after Karen Ferguson days, is it, Case?
It's a tough schedule in general. I think that Louisville has the capability and the team to make it into this condensed ACC postseason. Only the top 8 teams are going to make it. They've got 8 games to show that. It's good to get a start against Miami. That should be a good game for them to get off and running. Unfortunately, it is on the road. So, but we'll see what home field advantage really is for any teams this year. But yeah, you got Florida State, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, and North Carolina. Those are all going to be really tough games. And then Miami, Syracuse, and Boston College are no slouches either. So it'll be tough. Jared prognosticated that they won't score 8 goals this season, which, I guess we'll see.
Was that what it was? I forgot what I already said.
You said they won't average 1 goal per game, so you don't think they'll score 8 goals this year?
Oh yeah, you're right. That gets into some of the matchups.
I was gonna lead into Jared next on his prognostications, but it doesn't appear like he remembers them.
Well, they apparently need to recruit Minnie Mink to come and score 2 goals a game. So,
right.
How much alcohol was involved in that prognostication, Jared? Let's find out on that. But no, Jared, go ahead and talk about it a little bit here. I think you said 5-3 maybe as a schedule for women's soccer. If I remember correctly, you figured they could go 5-3. Why and what for? And how did you come up with this?
And apparently they're going to win all those games 1-0 and score no goals in the other in the losses.
If you love defensive soccer, this is right up your alley.
I do. I might have to go out.
We definitely want to invite Debbie.
5-3. It seems obtainable to me. You've got to look. They've got seems to me one of the toughest schedules in ACC soccer this year. You're playing the 3 losses are 3 teams that were 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament last year, including your ACC victor. 2 of those are on the road. These are just outstanding teams that have had a rich tradition and history compared to a UofL team that I kind of see is still working their way up, but they've hit the highest point in program history to me, especially after last season. But playing against some of those teams who have in the past shut down opponents pretty well, I mean, you're looking, what if you get shut out in all 3 of those matches? Well, then you can make it up, score a couple goals here and there in a couple other matches, get back out to that average of right about a goal per match. But this, as you mentioned, even Miami's going to be a tough start to the season. They could finish probably as low as 3-5. I think a couple people commented that earlier in the week in the comments section, but who knows? They could surprise us and end up, I think they could go as high as 6-2 on the year.
All right, so let's just roll it down real quick. Then we've already mentioned Miami and Florida State on the road, and then the month of October starts with the Cardinal women's soccer team being home. They bring in Syracuse on Thursday the 1st, and then Boston College on Sunday the 4th. It's back out on the road again on the 15th of October. They go to Virginia, and then the 18th, Virginia Tech. They come home the following week on a Sunday to play Notre Dame, and then end it with North Carolina at home, 4-4. The breakdown, home versus away, a schedule that, okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the first one, Miami down there. I think they can win this game. Jeff, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, man, I don't know the ACC landscape for soccer all that well. I know North Carolina is very good that we finish off with, so that's going to be a challenge to finish the year. But I seem to remember Miami is good but not great. So hey, let's it's a nice time to go to Florida. I'll say that. So
There you get.
I don't have much in soccer commentary. I love watching it. I just don't know it that well. So yeah, I mean, I know Florida State will be challenging. Yeah.
Mute the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, for this section, I'm lost. I don't know.
Case Miami down there. I think the Cards did beat Miami last year, if I remember correctly, here at Cardinal Stadium. But they start out down there. What do you think on this one?
So that game last year was a 1-0 win on the road. It was
was on the road.
Yeah, it was in the midst of an otherwise 5-game winless streak. They beat Clemson on October 10th, and then they did not get a win other than that Miami game until the NCAA tournament a month later. So, confidence was really low. They still managed to go out on the road. I believe it was senior day for Miami, picked up a 1-0 win. This is a similar situation where it's on the road and you don't know what's really going on, but I think that Louisville has historically had a pretty good success against Miami, and I don't think that ends this year. I think that Kentucky has been a bit different in their guidelines and the rules as far as training has gone than Florida maybe, but I think that UofL has been managing that very well. I think that seeing what we've seen on social media from the teams is that they've really found a way to get the most out of training in this unusual circumstance year that they've been having. And I think that they're really prepared going forward. And I think that we're going to see Louisville get out to a hot start, that they're going to need to get out to a hot start against Miami to have any hopes of success this year.
I can see this one just as close as last year's was as well, guys. Jared, I think you had this one counted as a W?
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy one, especially to start the year, but starting the season off with a win is always a nice way to go instead of trying to battle your way uphill the rest of the year.
Which would take the Cards then next as they go to Florida State. The Seminole was obviously a very strong powerhouse in the ACC, playing this one at Tallahassee on a Sunday. As optimistic and as hopeful as I want to be, guys, I just can't put this one in the W column for Louisville yet, based on the teams from this year and last year and who's returning and such. Can anybody dispute me and prove me wrong on this?
There's not a lot of history with Florida State. We haven't played them since 2017 at home when we lost to them 1-2. I hate when they put scores like that, and I didn't mean to say it like that. We lost to them 2-1. That was at home. It was one of the first conference games of the year, but we haven't played them in a while. Like Jared mentioned, they were a 1 seed last year. They are a good team. They're a tough team. They had some players taken in the NWSL draft, I believe. But they're I don't think that they're going to fall off year over year. So this is going to be an incredibly challenging game.
And I think the aspects of having to still be on the road, I don't know the full itinerary here, I guess is what I'm looking for. Will they go to Miami and then come back to Louisville and then go back to Tallahassee? To me,
I would be surprised
like
at
a lot
that.
of travel. I can't see it. I guess anything's possible.
I mean, not that Miami and Tallahassee are all that close, but I can't see coming back to Louisville making sense in that case.
I have to imagine that the ACC intentionally put teams that were grouped together regionally and time-wise right next to. So we're playing Miami on the 17th, Florida State on the 20th, and they're in the same state. The ACC's thought process is Louisville will go to Florida from the 16th to the 21st.
I mean, kind of opposite ends of the state, but still in the same state, yes.
But still in the same state.
Yeah.
Similarly, they go to Virginia for a 4-day stretch, too.
Right, two Virginia teams,
Don't forget they're bussing a lot this year. Most of the teams, between budget cuts as well as trying to avoid exposure to airports and airplanes, they want to keep the players on buses. So you'd be looking at a long trip to Florida down and back twice if they decided to come home between.
I certainly wouldn't want to be a player on Boston College's team and have to bus to Miami, though.
Oof. They're not exclusively doing buses, so I suspect they will probably be on a plane for that.
Surely Syracuse will fly here.
Yeah.
I've made that
Let's
drive.
hope so.
It's not pleasant.
No.
It is not. I have driven it, and it is not.
Well, I mean, you
pleasant.
start
It's
in
not-
Syracuse, so no,
You have
sorry.
to drive through Cleveland. I mean, it's not fun.
Cleveland's not bad. I can deal with
I'm going to
Cleveland.
withhold comment on anything because I don't want to get anybody mad at us. But
Cleveland
Anytime I
hasn't
have to drive.
Cleveland hasn't set fire to any rivers in decades. Come on.
Anytime I have to drive through the entire state of Ohio, I don't consider
Yeah.
that a good.
I was going to drive to New York. It would be to go to Saratoga and certainly not Syracuse. And I'll take that as what it's worth. But so if you look at the schedule, I don't know. I'm saying 5-3 is doable. Case, I think you brought up an even more plausible, or you went, I think 4-2-2 as a suggestion on what you thought it might be. I'm gonna say there's gonna be a tie in there somewhere. So without being too bold, let's say 4-3-1. That sounds like it could work for me. Jared,
Yeah.
are you gonna hold by that 5-3?
Yeah, I'll hold by the 5-3. I think it's still possible. It's not going to be easy, but it's still possible for the talent that we have on this team.
And one of the good things is after they play on Thursday, we'll be able to talk about it next week on our show
Indeed.
on what happened in that one, and then also kind of do a preliminary for the Florida State game, which will be next Sunday. By then, I'm assuming Florida State will have a game in. We can take a look and see what they've done and what's going on with them. So,
Jared says results only this season.
results only. Okay, that's a pretty cryptic statement. Okay.
Well, 5-3. It's results only, no ties.
Okay.
No ties.
Florida
Now,
State
are they-
opens their season.
That's a bold. I wonder how far do you have to go back in Louisville's women's soccer
Yeah.
record to see a season without ties?
Two ties out of 8 games seems like an awful lot, though. So maybe one, but
In the last, let's see. So last year, Louisville had 2 draws in that 6-game winless or 5-game winless skid that they had.
It was
And
2 years
then-
ago.
yeah,
Tell
I mean
me
it can
remember
happen. Certainly it can happen. I just
It was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, no draws. 12-7 season, 2018. Jared's not crazy. Then they had 2 draws the previous year as well, and they were again in back-to-back games. So they come
Yeah.
in pairs.
yeah
They
okay
come in pairs, which is why I think. I mean that
right because that was
one
your
time-
analysis when you predicted 2 draws.
Yeah, exactly. When,
Yeah.
In 2017, they took a draw against North Carolina at North Carolina.
Yeah, which that's
0-0. Huge game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Anytime you can do that against North Carolina in any field sport like that is pretty good for you if you can manage it.
Louisville's game against Florida State has a time on Florida State's schedule, but not on Louisville's. They're listing that as a Sunday 1 p.m. game. They're listing Notre Dame as a Thursday 8 p.m. game to open their season, but I'm wondering if these are real times or if these are... This is tough to say.
You got to say
They've
what,
got some times later down in the schedule, too, that don't align, so I wonder if they've gotten some information that Louisville hasn't quite added to their schedule yet.
and a lot of it's going to depend also on what the ACC network deems what they want to show at what times, what gets kind of sloughed off to the ACC network extra, and whether Fox Sports South or any of these other broadcasting systems decide to pick up any of these. I would think ACC would get, first bid on them, but it's hard to say, I guess. So TBA will do for me right now, guys. Field hockey, if we go a little further up north on Floyd Street, gets to start at home. That'll be actually September the 26th and September the 27th. We're in back-to-back games. They will play Duke. Good old Pam Buston brings the Blue Devils in here for 2 games. This is the one of, I guess, 3 times that the Cardinals will go back-to-back against an opponent. They'll be doing it with Duke, Wake Forest, and then Virginia. This one at 1 p.m. the 26th, Saturday, where I think football is out of town this week. that week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's right. That's why they're having that one on a Saturday, I guess, against Duke. But Duke's no slouch in field hockey, are they, Jeff?
No, they've done pretty well over the years. Of course, I mean ACC field hockey. You know, if you're playing ACC field hockey, you're a good team. It's just almost a truism. But Duke tends to be among the top of the teams in the league. Again, North Carolina does pretty well, so they're up there as well. So tough opening trio of games for UofL field hockey there. Two games against Duke and then North Carolina after that. So, man, this is gonna be a tough start. Um,
Let's not forget Boston College as well, who
Yeah.
actually eliminated the Cards, I do believe, last year from the ACC tournament, or was
Yeah.
it the NCAA tournament?
It was
One of the two.
the NCAA.
Yeah.
NCAA.
Yeah.
So you have 4 games at home, 5 on the road, Jared. That doesn't seem very kosher there, does it? I don't quite understand.
No,
It
that's
is an
the one I
odd
haven't
schedule.
really gotten a chance to look into as much. But off the just kind of like a brief glance, I think 5 and 4 would be kind of like in the safe bet. Either the 4 and 5, 5 and 4. Just, I mean, you're looking at the ACC has just always been a dominant conference, and Duke, especially with Pam Buston there, fantastic program. Trying to play at Virginia twice is no walk in the park. I mean, they've got a tough schedule here, and I think we all kind of knew that a little bit going into it when pretty much every other field hockey conference was either canceled, postponed, or just interconference. So they've got their a nice uphill climb in front of them this season.
I would be quite honest with you. I would be pleased as punch if Louisville gets out of these first 4 games with more than 1 win. Let's be realistic about it.
I could definitely see a couple wins in that first 4 matches there.
You must have a bigger crystal ball than I do, sir, because when you got Duke, North Carolina, and Boston College as your first 4, that's competition.
Trying to be hopeful, be a little optimistic there.
Indeed. One of the things about the field hockey schedule that kind of interests me here is that they're going to play the ACC Field Hockey Championship in Syracuse as they go through the regular slate of, I guess everybody's playing 9 games. I'm not positive on that. I know Louisville is. But then to begin November, it's the championships up in Syracuse.
Do you want to hear something weirder? I'm sorry, this is not about the championships.
No, absolutely.
This is about scheduling and how we're talking about how it's weird that Louisville's playing 9 games. They're playing a split number of home and road games. Virginia is playing 10 games. They're playing 6 home games and 4 away games. So why not cut one of these doubleheader games against Virginia? You pull Louisville down to 8, but they're 4 and 4. The ACC scheduling for field hockey appears to make literally no sense.
It is kind of weird because I guess when you get past the Duke opening weekend that Louisville has, we'll be bringing 2 other schools in here in North Carolina and Boston College. But I don't see any indication that they are going to play each other while they're here. Am I wrong on this? Does anybody see that? Or are they just coming in to play us and leave?
I think they're just coming to play and leave. It's also strange that of Virginia's 6 home games, they're all doubleheaders. I don't know why the ACC has done what they've done at all.
Yeah, it looks like field hockey schedule. They kind of turned it over to the Cardinal couple chips and said, "Here's some darts. Let's throw them at the board, and wherever they land, well, that's who's playing who."
Yeah. So North Carolina has to travel to Louisville to play on October 2nd, and then travel to Duke to play on October 4th. They'll play away at Boston College later in the year. I mean, they only have 1 doubleheader against Virginia.
That's
Did I mention that? Did I mention that Virginia plays 3 home doubleheaders and an away doubleheader?
Jeez.
Why?
Wow. I do not remember. I'm pretty sure they were out there. There may have been a preseason coaches poll on this. Do I remember seeing Louisville pick 5th in field hockey and then 7th in women's soccer? Or am I just
Yes.
in this?
You're
what's
correct on
5th?
both of those.
Okay. I think, and I'm trying to remember who was 4th. The top 3 are obviously pretty clear to me in Duke, North Carolina, and Boston College. They have to be your top 3 in field hockey. Who beat us out? Virginia for 4th, I guess. Is anybody
North Carolina, Virginia, Boston College, Duke, Louisville, Syracuse, Wake Forest.
Okay. So,
although for Syracuse being picked 6th, they also received the other vote for the first place finish. So, because obviously the coaches can't vote for themselves for the first place finish, North Carolina voted for Syracuse, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
This is very interesting, if somewhat, I don't know what we would call it, strange schedule for field hockey, where the Cards will basically leave here October 4th and not come back for the rest of the season for any events.
Yeah, finishing off in Syracuse, it's going to be a little bit chilly up there. I mean,
Yeah,
they're used to that, I'm sure, but still, it's be nice to have it a little farther south. But
they don't even get to play in the Carrier Dome.
No.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. If it gets a little chilly up there for November, do you think they could move this inside for the ACC Field Hockey Championships inside the Carrier Dome? I've got to wonder about that. But, and then what gets me here is I'm looking at this schedule. Okay.
Yeah. So
the ACC Field Hockey Championship.
2 rounds are in Syracuse and then 1 in Durham.
Yeah, Jeff, I'll go ahead and let you take it then.
Yeah, I just noticed. Sorry, I just jumped on that. I just saw that. I was like, really? Yeah.
2 days later. So for all the work to keep people off the planes.
Yeah.
Like, all right, congratulations on making the championship. Get on the plane and go to Duke.
Yeah. Oh man, this is bizarre.
I guess it was happy hour when they made the field hockey schedule up.
I'm telling you, they just put some teams up. What they did is they picked each team. They looked at them and they said they're going to play this team, this team, this team, and so on. And then they looked at the next team's schedule and said, "Oh, they're playing all those teams. Well, let's also make them play these teams because they haven't played them yet." That's why Virginia plays 10 games and nobody else does. Doesn't make any sense.
It's a bizarre set of schedules, that's for sure.
It's a very bizarre schedule where you're having the quarterfinals and the semifinals in New York, and then deciding to move the finals to Durham, North Carolina, home of Duke, and not right down the road from North Carolina. Yeah.
Does Syracuse have a home football game?
That's
on a Sunday. So
it's on a Sunday.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah.
One
ACC,
thing.
Please give me a call at your earliest convenience. We need to talk.
The one thing I can say that I like about this is that they made the second game in the doubleheaders not count as the ACC game. So you still don't get additional play time and to understand the players and understand the schemes and how they're going to play against you. You say, well, you got the tape for the ACC game, and then the next game is basically just an exhibition. Because what are the regular season standings don't matter. You're just looking at the ACC standings for the ACC tournament, so.
So it's better to win the first game, it sounds like.
Absolutely. You have to win the first game. The second game really doesn't even make a difference. Do whatever you want in the second game.
That is bizarre.
There's no NCAA tournament, right?
No NCAA tournament.
I guess there's not enough. Yeah, there's enough conferences playing to. It would just be an ACC tournament part 2.
Yeah. It's not even playing. So.
Yeah. I can't see how they hold an NCAA tournament in field hockey, but if they do, perhaps they'll decide to, hey, let's all go to Boston College and play in December.
But then come to Louisville for the
at the Final Four
game, but then switch back to a different site for the Final Four. No,
we haven't been to El Paso in a while, y'all.
Makes sense if you put the Final Four in one spot. You got to switch it up. Can't be too easy.
Based on all the ramifications and stuff here, it looks like each one of our squads that are in the ACC are going to have a win-loss record that's going to consist of 6 games, if I'm right in this, before they go into the field hockey championship. Win-loss schedule being what it is. I can see the Cards, and I hate to kind of be this way about it, but I can see the Cards easily going 3-3, guys.
Yeah, so they're playing the typical conference schedule, and then they've just thrown additional games in.
Yeah.
Because everyone round robins with all the other teams that are in the conference, so you end up playing 6 conference games, and then these other ones that they've added in for whoever just gets to play extra.
Yeah.
So Louisville, when's the last time they did better than 500 in conference?
Yeah, I mean,
think
again,
last
this
year
is a really tough conference, so there's no shame in that record in the overall scheme of field hockey. But yeah, it's to get above that in ACC play, I think it's been a while, so and it's tough.
2017, 4-2.
17.
Yeah.
But I mean, every other year, 2016, 18, and 19, they were 3-3. 2015 was rough. We don't need to talk about 2015.
I had meant to do this earlier, and I kind of glossed over it when I was on women's soccer, but I was going to ask you guys 5 players that will make a difference for Louisville in the 3 sports we're discussing here on the scheduling. I hate to backtrack on it, but if we're looking back at women's soccer, come up with a Fab 5 for me, 5 players that are going to make a difference in this season for the Cardinals. So we'll start with you, Case, and go from there.
5 players that are going to make a difference for Louisville. I'm going to not pick Gabby Cazellas or Amina Ekic because they're not going to make a difference. They're going to be the team as they were last year. I mean, they're the 2 most important players on the team, I think. But one that I will name that's going to make a difference, who is also one of the most important players, is Sarah Hernandez. I think that another year as the starter coming into her junior year is going to really keep her feet under her. She's going to be very important, having played almost every minute last year, in keeping everyone geared up and excited for the short season this year. So I'm going to say Sarah Hernandez, number 1. I think Delaney Snyder is going to get an opportunity to really come out as an offensive player more this year without as much traffic in front of her for the position. I'm not going to steal Jared's, so I think that I'll name my other, or 2 of my other 3, Nadege L'Esperance and Taylor Kerwin, I think are going to be really important. I think that TK is going to fall back into that role that Callie McKinney kind of filled a bit more as a defensive midfielder. She's listed as a midfielder forward, but I think that she'll fit in as one of those back 2 more to help shore up that second to last line of defense. And then I'll kind of go out of the way here, and I'm going to say Jessica DiFilippo, if she can come up with some more finishing. I hope she got some new cleats. She needed some new finishing boots for this year because she didn't have them last year. But if she can really come forward as another offensive player, a big offensive player up front, and she can provide a big spark alongside Delaney Snyder, I think.
All right, 5 good ones out of Case there. He kind of alluded to you, Jared. He didn't want to step on any toes here. So give me 5. It's going to be a Fab 5 for you, Jared, and you can include anybody you want.
Absolutely. No, well, I do agree with Case. The whole Gabby Cazellas, Amina Ekic, they're already there. They've established their roles. Everybody else in the ACC knows that. I'll stick with, that I said earlier in the article with Anna Henderson. She hasn't shown much in regular season yet, but this past spring and preseason last year, she showed a very good sign of aggressiveness, starting to pick up some leadership roles. So I think she's going to make a difference to help carry the offense now that we've lost a few of those players. I also fully agree with Sarah Hernandez. She's been a leader since she stepped on the pitch freshman year. She's going to kind of captain that defense besides Gabby. I'm just scrolling through the roster real quick. Going through, once again, like Case mentioned, I think Delaney Snyder's going to be another big offensive player. break out this year just because she's shown some promise in the past. What she lacks in speed, she does make up for in ball control as well as accuracy. So that's 3. I think Raven Alexander may step up this year as well. She battled a few injury issues last year. She kind of rides a little bit of between like a forward as well as a midfielder role. Very good quickness. I think they may ride with her a little bit to speed up the pace. And then as well as another one Case mentioned, Nadej L'Esperance. There's a nice little thing on social media about her that Women's Soccer posted, but she's entering her senior year. Strong midfielder role, and I think she's going to kind of lead the midfield. In the past where we've had Callie McKinney, Allison Price have kind of commanded roles similar to that. I think it's going to be Nadej's turn this year, although she'll be more of a defensive midfield role.
5 good picks as well there. I know, Jeff, you're not real versed in this. Are there any names here that are missing that you're thinking of?
The only names that I'm thinking of that have not been mentioned are Maisie Whitsett and Lana Batson. Both going to be, they're there. They contribute, and are they going to be top tier players? Maybe not necessarily, but they're good. They're going to be out there. They're going to be contributing, and maybe they're coming off a bench. I don't really know what the situation and
you think Lana Batson's going to contribute?
I don't know.
Behind Gabby Casellas?
Off the bench maybe. I don't know. But
some time.
Yeah, I mean but she is a good goalkeeper, right? This is a almost wasted year otherwise, right? Put her in there some, But yeah, Maisie Whitsett I think is gonna you'll see her out there some and contributing. So
very good. I'll agree with everybody else here and kind of make it a given that we're going to see stuff out of Casellas and definitely out of Beckett. 5 for me that I think I'm going to be watching very closely. In addition to those 2 would be Sarah Hernandez. Obviously, I'm looking for a big year from Raven Alexander, everybody. I'm hoping that Raven Alexander can break out of it and go with it. Also, Corian Dente, a freshman last year, who came in so very highly ranked and rated, and all the hype was there about her. I think she may be able to come back and do some very good things in the 2020 shortened season. Then one of my favorites to watch last year, and the one that I was specifically told I could not interview, was Delaney Snyder. I want to see Delaney.
Why couldn't you interview her?
It was something that was laid down to me by the sports information sources of women's soccer at that time, that she was not to be on the microphone. So there it was. We didn't interview her, Jared, to answer your question. You were there. You should probably remember that.
I spent most of the time on the pitch. I didn't get to hear your all's conversations half the time.
Yeah. Post game, you were out there still. And I think we can expect a very big season also to Jessica DiFilippo as well. I think she'll do some good things. Field hockey, it gets a little bit tougher there, but I think there's some certainly standouts in the field hockey realm that we can mention of players that we think are going to do a very good job for the Cards out there. I'm pretty excited about some field hockey players that'll be going after it this year. I definitely want to see the Snyder sisters have a big season. I think that they're due. I think that they can come by and do some really good stuff. You really, really have to take a look at Madison Walsh and see how she'll finish her senior year and how things she'll do with that. And then I'm going to take the 1 and 1A at the goalkeepers who we saw kind of bouncing back and forth last year in Harlan Barr and also Sam Minrath. See what kind of balancing she goes with those. And then of course, my sweetheart, Erica Cooper. I hope she has a real good season too from Assumption. And such a nice girl to interview. Really enjoyed talking with her last year. Jared, who do you got on field hockey here that's going to be big this year?
Yeah, leaving out the obvious choice, Mechie.
Yeah.
We know what she can do.
Yeah, which I
Going
did
down
purposely.
the list. Yeah, going down the list, I agree with you, Erica Cooper. She's shown some very positive sides in the past, and now as she enters an upper class year as a junior, I think she's going to take more of a leadership role. Looking at the goalkeeper situation, it's still kind of back and forth. I know that both of them there are listed on the roster. I think we may see more time out of Sam Minrath just because of the kind of a throwaway year this year, and looking ahead to the future with Sam just being a redshirt sophomore. I think we're going to see some time for her to really step it up. I know in the past, more often than not, they preferred Sam to come in when it was penalty stroke time, so that shows a lot of trust out of Coach Sowery right there for that reason alone. Rolling through, I think Allie Bidding, who's entering her senior year, she's done a pretty solid job with the midfield. I think she may lean back more defensively this year as well, just to help fill a couple gaps. Going through, I think Margot Lawn showed some spurts as a freshman last year, through a forward, real quick, very aggressive on offense. I think she may help fill in the void that we lost with Bethany Roos. And I agree with you with Madison Walsh. She had a couple big time goals and assists in late match periods last year, especially with overtime. So I fully believe that she's going to continue to step up, and as a senior especially, make sure she's got everybody under control, keep them calm and focused when it comes down to the wire.
All good choices there. Jeff, you have probably a little more knowledge on this than you do women's soccer. I'll give you for that. So you've been to some of the matches. What's your thought?
I'm gonna not avoid Meche Pastor. Obviously we know she's incredibly good. We know she has some like wizard-like stick skills. We've seen her do some amazing things. I still think she's gonna surprise people. On the upside, of course. I mean, she's yeah. I don't think people really can have gotten a good sense of just how good she really can be yet. I mean, obviously they've gotten a sense that she can be really, really good, but I think there's still more surprise on the upside there. So I would still put her in there. The goalkeeper battle is an interesting situation for for this, and Jared, you mentioned putting Sam in for the penalty strokes a lot. It's almost like Coach was a field hockey. It was a goalkeeper when she played, so she has some experience and knowledge in this area. But it's like she's picking their strengths. Being able to maybe track the ball a little bit more in a live play, maybe more to Holland Barr's strengths, while Sam may be better as a one-on-one with a penalty stroke. So, it's interesting to think about why that is the case. But you're right, that has been the case. So I think that's an interesting look at that. So, yeah.
Case, I know it's not a sport you follow as closely as women's soccer, but there is obviously some knowledge there. Any names here we're forgetting or missing?
Well, I'm going a little bit of a different route. Margot Lawn was one that Jared mentioned that I also had my eye on. She was really productive in the time that she got last year, with 4 goals and 2 assists. Only starting 4 matches last year, but playing in 21. I think that she's going to take a big step forward offensively. Similarly, I think Maddie Tabor has a chance to do the same thing. She had 1 goal and 2 assists in her short time, but she put 8 of her 10 shots on frame. So usually that turns into goals when you can consistently put the ball on cage where it's supposed to go. A lot of those will end up in the back. So I like those two to break out as going into their sophomore year. Some newcomers, India Reed, I think, has a chance to make some noise. Redshirt freshman coming in, or not coming in. Redshirt freshman will get her first opportunity to play this year. She was former Miss Kentucky field hockey player. So I think that she's got a chance to make her name on the field, as well as Charlie Van Orswat. So I think that we know that the Netherlands is a pretty good team
Yes.
in field hockey. That's kind of one of the sports they're known for.
Their
And she's
country does quite well.
and she's been playing up with the U18 national team since she was around 16. So I think that as far as competition goes, she's prepared to make the leap. I think that she'll have the opportunity to be very good in college field hockey at UofL, and I think she's going to get the opportunity to be on the field in her first year. So I think that she might be able to make some noise. And as far as the goalkeepers go, I was also going to say Sam Minrath has the chance to make some noise, because I think in this shortened season, we talk about it being throwaway just because there's no NCAA tournament to play for, and everyone still has another year of eligibility if they wish to take it after this year. But you're still playing for pride. You're playing in the ACC, and the ACC tournament is a de facto NCAA tournament a lot of the times, because the winner of that league is usually very good and has a good chance at winning the NCAA tournament. So I think that because of the shortened season, we might see a really quick hook in goalkeeper. And if Holland Barr gets off to a slow start, like we've seen a little bit before, I think that Sam Minrath is going to be right there waiting in the wings to take over and potentially start her career as the next great local goalkeeper.
Yeah, also one from the Netherlands that we kind of skipped over a little bit, but a very, very good sophomore who had a great freshman season was Julie Kaplizer. And so we'll look for continued good things from her. The name that we all kind of scratched our heads at and said, how do we pronounce this? And it was, I think, one of the sport information directors up there who said, it's Calwiser, it rhymes with Budweiser. And there it was. We had our answer right away. In fact, I do believe it was almost mistakenly announced that way by our dear friend Jason a couple of times. Stop by Budweiser. All right, let us move it on to volleyball now. That will be starting for the Cards on September 25th, which is a Friday. They start at home, and guess what they're going to do back to back? They're either going to play the Irish over there in the Federal Credit Union Arena on campus on Friday and Saturday. Jeff, thoughts about this?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how Notre Dame does. I've been watching, obviously, over the past 4 or 5 years as they kind of rebuild that program, and it's becoming a good program again. And there's, I think we've kind of laughed about in the past how often these matches between these two teams go to 5 sets. They're always fun, always exciting, always competitive. So I don't expect to see anything different than that this year. I think you're going to see for a 5-set match, you're looking at 2.5 hours of play. I think you're going to look at 5 hours of volleyball here in 2 days. And good high level volleyball. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to. I'm itching for. I missed the spring season. I need my volleyball. So
there you have it, an unabashed plea from Jeff.
Yeah.
Would you please set up the net and someone served on it? This 5-team pod, it kind of looks like to me, though, interests me, where they've got Notre Dame, Boston College, Syracuse, Pittsburgh all up together with Louisville in what appears to be a 5-team pod. Does that sound like a good grouping to you? Should we maybe be in another grouping, Jeff? Thoughts on the grouping?
I'd like to be in a grouping that doesn't have Pittsburgh in it.
Yes.
So, but otherwise, I think we got a shot at coming out of this with a pretty good record. I got a shot at coming out of this 7-1. I don't expect to beat Pittsburgh twice, but maybe we knock them off once, and I think we've got a real shot at going through these other 3 teams with 2 victories for each of them. That's not a given by any means. These teams are all doing pretty well. Boston College surprised everybody last year by being pretty darn good as well, which is not typical for them. But in Syracuse, always with Lena Dillon up there, is always a solid contender and dangerous. You got to be aware of them. So, I think there's a chance we go 7-1. I think there's a chance we go, 4-4. Depending upon who shows up and plays each night.
Give me your Fab Five on this team, and you can include or exclude as you wish, sir.
I think you start with Ika Jones. So as a as a redshirt sophomore who's going to be finishing her eligibility. I was exchanged on Twitter with her the other day. Her last year of eligibility is going to be fall of 2023. She's been with us for over 2 years already. She's amazing. She's an incredible athlete. She develops more and more every year. When you hear the stories of her coming out and never having dove for volleyball until she started going to college camps, because in Jamaica they were playing on outdoor asphalt courts. She was raw when she started, and she's developed so much. I think you're going to see the other two preseason All ACC, Tori Dilfer and Anna Stevenson. Tori's as a setter and Anna as a middle. Those are both going to be strong contributions as well. I think for the freshmen you're coming in, I think you're going to look at Anna DeBeer at possibly having a big impact if she can break through the several outside hitters that we have that are really good. Claire Chaussee continuing to be a strong contender there as well. I think the other middle you're going to see being a strong force is going to be Amaya Tillman. She's going to be really good. This will be her first sophomore year, and yeah, I mean she's a heck of a player as well, and see her develop and maybe have a breakout year.
Jared, anything to add to this? Any backup to what Jeff's come up with on this?
It's actually, I was thinking just about the same thing there. I'm going to try and switch it up just a little bit compared to what he had. One of the names that's going to be different is Piper Rowe. She doesn't see a lot of playing time, but when she does get out there, she makes it extremely effective. So she's a great force off the bench to come in and provide a spark when need be. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for her. I do have to agree with Jeff on the whole Iko Jones thing here, especially only being a redshirt sophomore, which next year would also count as a sophomore year in terms of NCAA. But to me, she has the potential to be one of those UofL volleyball greats that we talk about for decades to come.
Mm-hmm.
Especially just seeing what we saw out of her last year and how she led the team. And she's going to have, by the time she leaves UofL, 6 seasons, 3 cards, I think.
She may, and if you know Iko, she may have 7 degrees by then too. So,
right, all the stuff.
She'll be teaching on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Right.
Obviously.
She's a heck of a good student, on top of being an incredible athlete and just an all-around great person.
And I honestly think Iko could be one of a competitor for ACC Player of the Year this year. To be honest, if we're going to get a little more bold out there.
Yeah, I don't think that's that bold of a prediction, honestly.
She's a fantastic player. I agree with Claire Chaussee as well. I know you had mentioned her name. Sometimes she starts. I think she came in and filled the role when Melanie went down last year. Some great hops. Very energetic, whether she's on the court or she's on the side. She brings a solid energy to the team to kind of keep them going, uplifted. Scrolling down, Alexis Hamilton's battled a couple injury issues over the years here, especially with that ACL a few years ago. Finally hit that senior year. A big leadership position for her. We're going to need someone to carry that back row. I thought defensively we weren't the greatest last year. So I think that's where we're going to see a lot of things stepped up, and she's going to help lead that. Moving on to a fifth one. I'll go ahead and I'm going to agree with Jeff again. Let's go with the freshman on this one, Anna DeBeer. Assumption, strong history of strong volleyball players. It seems like just every year we've got a new one coming in, even though they may have gotten upset by Mercy earlier this week.
Yeah.
If anybody follows high school volleyball.
Yeah, I saw that.
Good match there, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Anna DeBeer could have a nice showing as a freshman, especially if Danny Busboom Kelly likes to rotate some players just to see what she may have for next year.
Good picks all. In case you're kind of like me, or we really don't attend the matches, but we do have a following interest in it. Is this a 7-1 team, first of all? And are these guys pretty well correct on with their picks?
Yeah, this one is a little bit tougher to try to find other players to say outside of like a top 5 because, this one's not like people you can exclude. It's the people that are going to contribute a lot are going to contribute a lot. And there's only 6 players on the floor at a time anyway. As far as the 8-game schedule goes, if you're looking at a throwaway season for any team, it's volleyball, who typically plays a 30-game schedule.
Yeah, about that.
And they're getting about a quarter of that. 7-1 will be tough. I think 6-2 is. I don't want to say more reasonable. I mean, 7-1 is reasonable. I think 6-2 is probably more likely, and it would be nice if those 2 losses are not both to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
As far as the 5-team grouping goes, I think it's pretty intentional by the ACC.
Yeah.
You want to put Pittsburgh and Louisville together, and Notre Dame. They're always entertaining. They're fun to watch. There's history between Louisville and Syracuse. Also, you needed to add somebody in, so here's Boston College. Glad they didn't also say
so much disrespect for the Eagles
in the same one. Put Florida State in there too.
Yeah, right.
Good point, indeed.
As far as my player, I'm just gonna pick one player to watch, and it's gonna be a freshman that I think can make an impact. I think it's PK.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how to pronounce her real name.
I think
so
it's
I'm
Pegrin.
Sticking with PK.
Yeah,
because that's what she says everybody calls her, so that's what I'm gonna call her. She's a giant at 6'3". She is listed as tied for the tallest player on the team with Maya Tillman. I think she's going to get a chance to show what she can do in the middle of the court. And I think because, like I mentioned, this is the most throwaway year for volleyball, it may be the team that we see the most just rotational play from. There's not an ACC tournament to play for in this. Obviously, whoever is crowned the champion, if they technically crown an ACC champion this year, will have the most massive of asterisks next to their name.
Yeah.
So I think that because no one is going to lose any eligibility, you're not worried about redshirting anybody. You just like to see what you have moving forward. I think this is a great year because, like we mentioned last year, a lot of last year's games were played with this year's team. Based on what they lost. And so what you have from last year. It would be really nice to use what time you have this year to incorporate the newcomers into that team and see what you have going forward.
Yeah.
So I think we may see a little bit more of the freshmen in this sport more than the others.
Yeah, this really feels like a spring schedule for volleyball.
This is an exhibition season.
Yeah, basically. I mean, spring schedule is usually 4 or 5 matches. So this is, I mean, both in number of matches and kind of the feel of, how do you go into it? How do you approach it? I mean, I haven't spoken to Coach Spoon Kelly, so I don't know what her perspective on it is on it, but it feels like, yeah, okay, let's go out there and let's give a bunch of people experience because why not? You don't have any postseason tournaments. You're not even playing a full ACC schedule. You're not playing everybody in the team. You're not even. Basically, you've got 3 different divisions here that you're doing within the ACC, and there's no cross pollination between them. You really can't even effectively crown a regular season champion, like you said, without the massive asterisk next to it.
What if you have 3 teams go 8-0?
Right. Yeah.
You can realistically see 2 going 8-0.
Yeah.
You can see Pittsburgh and Florida State both going 8-0.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how the other 2 pods are set up, but if you pull, I don't know, an NC State out into the other pod from Florida State, then you're not far from having 3 teams go 8-0. I don't think. Yeah.
It could be quite interesting to see how that shakes out for sure. I'm going to pay particular attention to the freshmen. You got CC Rush coming in. She's at a New Albany, played over at Providence. Don't know what kind of impact she'll have right off the bat, but you have Aiden Barnett, who's a 5'6" libero, also kind of a defensive center out of Leavenworth, Kansas. Kansas has been a good state in the past, I think, for volleyball. I think we'd all agree. Brooke Smith, an outside hitter, 6'1", out of Leo, Indiana, which would bring us the question to me, where is Leo and why? But I have no clue. PK out of Sioux Falls, obviously South Dakota, very, very good player. She's leading the way for another very, very good player out of that state who will be coming down here next year. And then as other freshmen go, Anna DeBeer, yes, the Assumption girl that is coming in with so much hype, so much of a history. Got to see how she's going to deal with it. I mean, has Katie George kind of put her underneath her wing and said, "Here's what you need to do. Listen to me."
I
It'll be
think
interesting.
I think in some respects, yes. I mean, Anna DeBeer has been in and around UofL
Yeah.
volleyball for a decade, or more, right? I mean, I feel like I've kind of watched her grow up just from being at volleyball matches and seeing her run around over the years. She's
Oh,
she's yeah,
definitely so.
she's been coming to UofL volleyball for a decade probably. So
And then, so it'll be an interesting type of season to see. We'll see if an NCAA tournament develops out of this. And if it does develop out of this, we'll also find out how many teams from the ACC's three-way split, let's call it, get in. I would hope
Yeah.
that they could get as many as 6 teams into the tournament, but all that much further down the road.
So real-time follow-up.
NC
on
State
the-
and Florida State do not play each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the pod is NC State, UNC,
Yeah.
Duke, and the Virginia teams. And then
I-
Wake Forest gets the punt out of the North Carolina group to the Southern group to
Yeah.
play with Florida State and all that. And interestingly, I'm on the composite calendar. 3 teams are playing non-conference games.
Huh. Interesting.
Syracuse is taking on Army. Clemson
Okay.
and Virginia Tech both playing Citadel.
Yeah.
They're the only 3 non-conference
Yeah.
matches that are happening at all. But
I could NC State's down a little bit, but I could see them coming out of that pod undefeated. It's not impossible. I wouldn't hold my breath that it's going to happen, but it's possible.
Not a hugely challenging pod.
Yeah.
A shame that the Cards couldn't have perhaps gotten a nod for that pod. But
Yeah.
honestly, there are some good rivalries in there.
Yeah.
For us as we get into it. But yeah, next week it all starts going in. We would be amiss if we didn't mention a couple of things. First of all, the WNBA, who we've been following closely at the website, and also goes into a very, very big final 2 games for a lot of these teams to see who's going to play in the tournament, guys. Our Washington Mystics, or as I've been calling them, the Maisha Mystics, have been playing quite well lately, and they are currently in possession of 8th place by percentage.
Maisha's been playing well. The rest of the team,
Yeah, I think Emma Meeserman's been okay out there and doing some good things.
Yeah,
Maisha,
she's good. Yeah, they've been doing well, but yeah, Maisha, I mean, particularly, just what a game she had. What, last night before? Holy cow.
Yeah. Well, we'll take this around real quick. Is she the most improved player in the league this year? Jared, I think she is. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she deserves a bid for most improved player in the league. Just looking at her stats, I think UofL posted some of the side-by-side stats from last year to this year. And I didn't realize how much of a difference it was just in every aspect, every category. So she's really stepped it up, and she's turned out to be the leader for the Mystics, which last year she was just kind of a player that came off the bench. So to me, she's definitely the WNBA's most improved player of the year.
I can't disagree with you on that at all. I think that Washington has an outside chance of hanging on. In fact, I think it may have already tipped off this today. The Washington Mystics are playing the New York Liberty today, but they have to play again Sunday. They play Atlanta. I think they're 2 winnable games. I think they can hold on for 8th position there in the playoffs, where they would play the number 5 team in the league. And if you take a look at what's going on right now currently in the stats, the number 5 team in the league could be one of 3 different teams. So either Minnesota, Phoenix, or Chicago. So, wow. Pick your poison, right?
Yeah, so according to the WNBA's clinching scenarios, they actually have some. With a win today, Washington would eliminate Atlanta.
Yes.
So then they'd just be fighting against Dallas for that 8th spot.
Who did lose last night, I might, but does hold a 2-0 series lead in the regular season over Washington.
Right. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. I'd say, so the clinching scenarios don't indicate anything else about the 8th seed, just that Atlanta is eliminated today if Washington wins. Vegas clinches a double bye if they win, and Seattle is the number 1 seed if Vegas loses, because they'll have the best record in the WNBA. The game against the Liberty just tipped off about 2 minutes ago, and Washington leads 3-0. That's available on Fox Sports Go. Oh, only in New York, and NBC Sports only in Washington. So NBA TV, if you got that. So
Such a big game. Such a big game and such little coverage.
And as for Maisha Hines-Allen being the most improved player, it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how the WNBA award voters assign value. Obviously, Maisha Hines-Allen's volume stats are up significantly from last year and the year before, but she's also played 3 times the amount of minutes as either of those seasons. So her volume stats are up significantly. But if you look at some of her advanced splits, she's also better on rating, offensive and defensive. She's increasing her rates a little bit. So I think she's had a really good year. Obviously, probably one of the best year-over-year changes, but you also have to look at the fact that she's been opened up as far as positionally goes significantly by the players that have been sitting out for that team.
So if Washington does sneak into 8th spot here, Jeff, they're able to maintain it. Which one of the 3 would you like to see them start against? Minnesota, Phoenix, or Chicago? I'm gonna go Chicago.
Yeah, I'd say I gotta pick Chicago on that. But it's almost like you said, pick your poison. They're all 3 are good teams. You know, that's what you expect and hope for a postseason to have some good play going on. So
Is Maisha your MIP of this season?
I don't see how this is even a discussion. Like, who else are you gonna put up there against her on that? I don't. Nobody. I think it's clear that she is.
I think there will be a significant chatter for Enrique Agumbwale. Possibly. She's been having a very good season too.
Yeah. I don't know. But I don't see it. Yeah.
You can't spell the Mystics without Maisha.
Mm-mm.
How about that?
The Mystics are currently up 7-0, and Maisha has 5 of the 7 points with a made 3-pointer and 2 made free throws.
Yep.
In addition to already having 2 rebounds, a steal, and an assist.
Yeah.
I'll have what she's having, waiter. That's my answer to that. All right, guys. Really, only thing we can really kind of cover before we get into some final thoughts here, I think, would be the football that's going on today out at Cardinal Stadium, an 8 p.m. game. And we can look at it. I know it's not a women's sport, obviously, but we can look at it for the impact and the potential down the road aspects it could have on the fall sports that we're waiting for to start. 12,000 people in an open arena, socially distanced, masks on, hand sanitizer everywhere. Jared and I are in. We're going different areas, but we're being there. Just some of your thoughts on it, Case?
I would advise you guys not to get kicked out by trying to meet up and sit next to each other.
It's not going to happen. No.
That's my recommendation.
I've sat next to Jared before at events. I wouldn't do that to begin with in normal times.
I think it's going to be. Obviously, I'm very excited for sports that I care about in particular to be back and with some sense of normalcy. Baseball, I'm a Reds fan, so sports being back hasn't been relevant to anything at all. And I don't really watch the WNBA or the NBA much. And MLS has been so incredibly hard to keep up with because the games are being played at weird times and they're actually running out of schedule despite having like 15 games they still need to play. There's no more games scheduled. They haven't figured out what they're doing moving forward. So that's interesting as well. But I am looking forward to college athletics being back. Louisville football is really fun to watch. I really enjoy it quite a bit, even when they go 2-10 and I want to die sometimes. I cautioned everyone in my article today to be aware that things can change at the drop of a hat. News today, we've already seen, well, last night, we saw Memphis had an outbreak among their football team. They've already had to postpone their game for next week against Houston. In the ACC, Virginia Tech had to postpone all football activities. And I think they've postponed all athletic activities for the time being. I saw a information from their COVID tracker on Virginia Tech's campus that they're currently running a 16% positivity rate on tests on campus.
Ooh.
So that'd be why they are postponing their game against Virginia that's scheduled for next week. Virginia is already shuffling their schedule around. They've moved their game against Duke up to the following week, the 26th, so that they can play before October, since they weren't scheduled to do that now, with their game against Virginia Tech being moved. Things can change very rapidly. And even when they seem like they've been sorted out and things are normalizing, like is happening in the MLB, there were early outbreaks among teams that postponed games and shifted things around, and then that kind of fell off, and everyone seemed like they thought it was over, and now the Giants and Padres are postponing games again due to another outbreak. So things can change very quickly. Enjoy sports while we've got them at the moment. Support the athletes who have been working really hard on the field to prepare, as well as off the field to be available to play. It's been as emotionally and mentally taxing as being a college athlete, I can imagine, is. It's been even harder this year, especially with all of the additional expectations that have been put on a bunch of 18 to 23-year-old young men and women. So support them and eventually pay them, but that's a different conversation.
A little social commentary there for sure.
Yeah.
Fluidity. Yes, indeed. Fluidity is the name of the game these days. Jeff, your thoughts on what these games of tonight might affect down the road?
Yeah, well, I do want to touch on, we kind of skipped over Jasmine Jones and the Liberty in our WNBA discussion there briefly. Named to the ESPN All-Rookie team for the WNBA this year with great honor. And also got the start today against the Mystics. So her first career start in the WNBA. So congratulations for Jazz Jones making a heck of an impact her freshman season, coming on and developing through the year. It's been great to watch that happen. And she's so much fun to watch.
No doubt.
The Liberty scored.
Yeah, 6 minutes in, or 4 minutes in, but yeah.
Jazz already has a rebound. 2 rebounds. Sorry, she just got another one. An assist.
Yeah.
And a foul. She fouled Maisha. It's the only foul in the game. She fouled Maisha.
Kylie, put Kylie on her. That'll shut her down. And some of the things that I'll kind of close out with here and talk about as we talk about NBA and other things is that certainly I think that I would be more akin to attend outdoor events than in right now. Indoor events, for obvious reasons. I'm just not going to be very, very comfortable in indoor climates for now. Maybe that'll change by basketball, but right now, if I can be out in the wide open spaces where I've got some distancing and some masking going on, I'll even sit through it in the rain. I don't care. It'll be fun to watch. We have no clue yet on what field hockey and women's soccer are going to do as far as media attendance. I wish I could tell you all. I don't know. We don't know what they're going to do as far as that goes, or even allowing people in. Both are outdoor sports. As far as volleyball goes, that's a whole different aspect and a new book to read. We'll see what happens there with that. All right, Jared, what's going on with this stuff here? We're going to have some fun tonight here. What's going to happen in this game?
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. Even if it means I have to be back in the stands for the first time in the Lamar Jackson Heisman year was last time I saw the stands. But it's gonna be nice. Just I don't get the opportunity to sit back at really any game as a fan much, so it's just kind of a good time for me to just kind of let loose and enjoy it and hang out with Katie.
There you go. All right, fellas. Any other final thoughts anybody else wants to toss out there at all? Jeff, you get everything off your chest? Or is there more you
I'm
want to
good.
go on to?
There's always more, but no, I'm good for now.
Stay tuned for Jeff's rant.
Yeah, follow my Twitter.
Absolutely. Hopefully I didn't push any buttons on you this
No,
week.
no.
And that's such a shame. I always try to do that each week if I can. But we'll be back with you, I guess, next week to talk about it. What we've seen, what's happened, what's coming up, the joy and excitement of UofL women's sports, a fluid situation, but certainly something we can cheer for when they take place, guys. And I think with that, I'm going to tee this one up and see if I can hit it down the fairway and say goodnight to everybody here. All right.
All right.
Thank you.